I'm your Google partner. Partner? Let's go on that fishing trip we always talked about. Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC comics and movies while fielding questions from listeners like you. And this is our first episode of 2018.
Yay! Happy New Year.
How was your sabbatical?
It was good. It was busy.
Did you consume a lot of comic book DC-ness?
I bought so many comic books.
Yeah.
It affected how I packed my bags on the way back.
Do you want to do a brief overview of some DC stuff that you purchased?
Stuff that I got.
Got?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, without giving away our location, where we live is relatively remote.
Even though we kindly give it up. I got a message from somebody like 2 days ago that said, so like in the last episode of like Docmas, you guys basically just say where you live. So, and I was like, it's a loose mystery.
I mean, yeah, Docmas was we were probably relatively loose-lipped, so
they'll sink this ship.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, but where we are, we're relatively remote, so it's actually pretty difficult for me to get my hands on like back issues of comics. I get the ones that are coming out new, but there's limited prospects for getting old comics. So when I was, back visiting family and stuff like that, I picked up a ton of stuff, a bunch of Animal Man. I picked up a couple of collected editions of Hawk and Dove. So expect an episode on that because I'm like elbow deep in Hawk and Dove right now.
Well, that's
elbow deep
in both Hawk and Dove.
Both Hawk. Well, I have two arms. So I got all that stuff. I got like some Resurrection Man, some Justice League America. Yeah, quite a bit of stuff. I got a free Fantastic Four graphic novel.
Ooh. Did you get anything from like family or anything for Christmas?
I did, yeah. Well, my family knows me pretty well, so they got me the first 4 issues of the first volume of the Legion of Superheroes.
Ooh.
So, goes a long way back, and some of them are like reprinted adventures from Adventure Comics, but it's got like Computo in there and Mon-El and Triplicate Girl and like all sorts of kind of weird characters. So
that's rad.
So comic book wise, it was pretty successful. I also shout out to Avatar of the Green if you're listening.
Oh yeah.
I got I already had a Funko Pop of Swamp Thing, but I got a second one. But this one is like, he's like fuzzy. He like feels like moss. He feels swampish.
Ooh.
But he smells like pine. He's like scented. So I have a scented, mossy Swamp Thing in my home now.
I like to imagine that Swamp Thing actually kind of smells a little bit like that.
Well, it's better than smelling like swamp.
Like some sort of swamp thing.
What about you? How was your?
It was good.
Did you take the full like 3 weeks to work off your nog hangover?
Oh my god! I like kudos to anybody who made it through all 12 episodes and listened to them.
And you were just listening.
Yeah,
you weren't doing it.
Yeah, no. I mean, mentally, I didn't even finish. I mean, I didn't make it to the end.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a moment in part 10 where you can hear your brain shut off.
I think I just checked out. I think verbally I was there a couple times, but like not in any sort of like cognizant way. Like It was just a lot of rambling.
Yeah. Yeah, Colin really had to step up there.
I know, and that's never something you want to happen. I think there was some incoherent like calling for help, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few little moments in there.
But overall, no, I Christmas was pretty quiet for us actually up here. I got some non-DC stuff. I got that I don't know if you can see the
the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah, fucking right.
That's dope.
Right? I got and put together that Millennium Falcon that's in the corner there.
That's awesome.
That's kind of my nerdy stuff. We my wife and I kept things kind of low key for gifts this year, but also we have this bad habit where we can't ever wait till Christmas to give each other presents. So
I kind of understand that. That
Yeah.
does happen sometimes at my house too.
And we'll also use it as like a bartering system for things. It's just like, well, I see that presence in there, and I see that you might want something. So I'm not making any presumptions of sexual things, but I'm just saying that a barter system exists.
First, new year, new Richard.
That's right. Hey, you know what it is? You know what? There's a missing piece. I think that's why I'm not being as bad as I normally am.
Colin, how was your vacation?
Oh, good to know. Yeah. We actually don't know where Colin is.
Speed Force?
You know what? I know what you're thinking. It wasn't me that did it.
Boy, you cried wolf.
So we'll have to wait and see what happens to him. Maybe he'll return hopefully before the next issue. But
yeah, we like literally don't know where Colin is.
No. So
I know this sounds like a joke, but Richard and I in real life, not in the context of this show, don't know where Colin is.
So if you know where Colin is, tweet at us.
Hashtag Colin is here.
Yes, and let us know where he is.
And if you don't know where he is, hashtag Colin is there.
And let us know where you think Colin might be.
Yeah, make like a Carmen Sandiego thing.
Yes, whether it's somewhere in real life or in the DC universe, let us know where you think Colin might be, and maybe that's where he'll end up being from. Also, for your, we want to know what you got for your holidays. Let us know.
Only if it's DC related.
And it's only if it's Christmas. This is a Christian podcast for Christian listeners.
There's the old Richard. There he is.
I can't be gone for too long. I tried. That was my New Year's resolution. Lasted about 10 minutes.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, no. I got through the intro almost.
It's January Earth. Oh, no, wait. I used the voice, but I still said the thing.
Yeah, that doesn't... Day of week.
Oops. Tweet at us if you got anything kind of cool and geeky or comic booky for Christmas. Yeah,
take some photos, send us to us so we know. And then if you post your address, that'd be great. So then I can.
I didn't mention, but I also did get a couple of like action figure-y things. Like I got a '90s Aquaman.
Oh,
Hook
yes,
hand Aquaman action figure, and I was pretty stoked about that.
That's so cool.
My wife knows me really well.
Almost too well.
It's almost like we're married.
Oh, yuck. Gross.
Moving on.
Into the news. So apparently the Legion of Superheroes premiered or is premiering. Has it premiered yet? Or
by the time this episode comes out, it may have premiered.
Okay. It at some point will premiere in the new Supergirl promo, and then hopefully the new season.
I actually don't know when these shows kick back up, which is weird because I watched The Flash, but and Legends of Tomorrow, but I have no idea when.
That's what downloads and DVRs are for.
Well, exactly, right? So, but at any rate,
have you seen the promo for it?
I have. So I as you know, I don't just watch Supergirl, but what I understand, mid-season.
I know you don't just watch Supergirl.
Yikes. Mid-season finale left off with the villain Rain is
like Rain.
No, like Reign, like the reign of a monarch.
Okay, not like Rainn Wilson.
No, also not that. I think she had beat up Supergirl pretty badly. But it looks like in this back half of the season, at least 3 members, I think, of the Legion of Superheroes will come back in time to help her to fight Rain. So from the trailer, from the promo, it looks like we've got Mon-El back again.
So cool.
Looks like we've got Saturn Girl.
What, has she been on the show before?
Well, they like months ago we had done the news piece that they had cast someone as Imra Ardeen.
Oh, that's right.
So it's cast someone Saturn Girl. But I haven't been watching the show. It's possible she's shown up, but those two, and then it looks like Brainiac 5. So he's got the 3 like glowing like dots on his forehead.
Oh, snap.
And everything. So yeah, it looks like Brainiac 5's coming back in time too.
Do you think you'll ever get like a Legion of Superheroes like entity on its own?
Like just a full show or something?
And do you think it could be sustained?
I think you can do it, and I think it can be amazing. I don't think they will.
No, I would love for them.
And I don't think they would spinning out of Supergirl either. Like I feel like that would be, the Legion of Superheroes is weird enough that you can just do it on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many characters that you don't have to spin them out of something else. And because it's set in the future, I mean, you're meeting everything for the first time anyway. You have to do so much explaining and world building that you don't have to spin them off the way that like they did like the backdoor pilot for the Flash
Yeah.
on Arrow, or same with Legends of Tomorrow on, you know, Flash and Arrow. Yeah, I would love to see a Legion thing. My dad would. That might be the thing that kills him. Like if they made that might be the end of it.
I would just. I mean, not that I want to see your father die, but I
Nor do I.
But I mean, I really want the Legion.
Jesus.
I would love to. I would love to see them do it like almost like in the actual like 50s.
Yeah, I would love to see
like
a
day of like the world of tomorrow, but like
Yeah.
that. I think I've said that for any time that
we may have
that
said
kind of
that
stuff-
in the middle of the Nog stupor.
That's true. I all of that is one, that all needs to be redacted. Two, I don't remember any of it, so just assume that it's redacted.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think that would be so cool. Like that's the one thing I think they're steering so far away from like the origins of a lot of these superheroes, and trying to like kind of be like, oh, but in like a modern take. I would love
like
to
like a grounded take.
Yeah, I would love to see them sort of like really lean into it and like set it in the 50s and
Well,
like.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, with that, I know what you mean, that like sort of 50s, 60s like aesthetic, like what
Exactly.
they thought the future was.
Exactly, but even for like
Because
things
some
that
of those origins are, I mean, for the most part, the Legion of Superheroes, their powers are just like inborn, like because they're all from different planets.
Yeah.
So on their own planets, they're not special.
No.
But like they're a weird character, like Matter Eater Lad. He comes from a planet where the people have evolved to be able to eat anything, any
Wow.
material, any substance. So there's like a comic, like a panel where he takes someone's gun and he's like, "Oh, mighty tasty pistol, mister," and he like takes a bite out of it. It's like the most 60s kind of thing. But like he's in there, Bouncing Boy is a guy that drinks this like soda that basically he can turn into a big bouncing rubber ball.
For all the uses that has.
He's remarkably useful. Yeah, no, I think it would just be hilarious. Like some of them have such insane powers. And then there's also the Legion of Substitute Heroes whose powers are so weird or out of control that they don't qualify to be in the Legion.
The problem is when they show up, like general community just like acts up really bad, and then they just end up playing a video. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well,
the substitute teacher heroes.
Yeah. I'll never stop making that joke. All right, well, let's move on.
Sure.
So Gotham is apparently unaffected by the Disney's purchase of Fox. First of all, we have to talk about the fact that Disney purchased Fox.
Yeah, Disney now owns something like a quarter of like all intellectual property. I'm positive that number is wrong, but it's sensational enough to get everyone's attention.
And in this day and age, who needs facts?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, whatever that number actually is, it's massive. Disney already owns a ton of intellectual property. They already own Marvel, and then they've bought 20th Century Fox. So they didn't buy like Fox News or the sports or anything like that, but they did buy like the branch of Fox that made like creative content, and that's the branch that owned the film rights to like the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, those things that like Marvel, when they were struggling in the 90s, they sold off their film rights to these other companies. So now Disney's got that back, or Marvel's got that back. So I would expect to see those things folded into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in future. Probably not in these next couple of Avengers movies, but down the line.
I'm glad that, to be honest, I'm glad they didn't buy the news. I don't know if I want to go to Disney World and see like Bill O'Reilly the ride. It's just a lot of stern looks at you in disappointment.
Yeah. I think Disney knew that was off brand too.
Yeah, exactly.
But basically, the one thing people weren't sure about is that Gotham, a DC show, is on Fox.
They couldn't.
So then Disney owning Marvel, taking over the.
How does that work? But they don't own the like. They don't like.
It just means they own the company that produces the.
Yes.
Like they don't own any of the property.
All that means is that if they wanted to, they could just go no more Gotham.
They could do that, or yeah.
Like I think that would be the only thing, and
it
that's
might be
a
little perverse. Like they might be making money then off a DC thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little weird, but it's not the end of the world. But basically, It's not. The long story short is that it's not really affecting anything.
No, and for the most part, they're actually leaving a lot of the shows alone. They're kind of just letting. I think that's why a lot of these purchases have been so successful. For them is that they're walking in going, you do the thing right. We're just coming in to like get profit from it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think Disney does have a certain amount of. No, I mean you're right. Like Marvel Studios is its own thing.
Yeah.
Disney doesn't really interfere in Marvel Studios, but I think if Marvel Studios wasn't doing well, or if that success turned, I bet
then
you
they would
see
step
Disney step in, right? Like I don't think they're totally laissez-faire about these like multi-billion-dollar things that they buy. The thing that killed me is that 20th Century Fox, I mean, owns a lot of that was a lot of things. It was like the Alien franchise and like all sorts of things are in there. But they paid like 60 billion for it?
Yeah.
They only paid 4 billion for Lucasfilm.
I know, right? Like
and Star Wars, I know it's only one thing, but it's a massive one thing. Like yeah, I mean, I'm sure if you look back through all of that stuff Fox owned, it's worth it, I guess, for them. But 60 billion seems high, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, that gives
says the two people who've never been in a position to judge the worth of things like on this scale. But you know what I mean? Like when you look at what they paid for Lucasfilm, and that to me was a lot.
My mentality behind it, I think, is it's all going to be for digital content downloads when they release their own proprietary streaming service. Having access to all of Fox's like and subsidiaries and like I'm assuming
guess.
Yeah,
I mean they own The Simpsons. The Simpsons is big now.
Also,
not The Simpsons is big now. The Simpsons is big and now they own it.
Well, yeah, and think about having the Simpsons world in Disney World.
Yeah,
I mean that property alone is worth $4 billion.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I would think Simpsons is as big as Star Wars in some ways.
Yeah, probably, at least merchandise wise. Yeah.
I think so. I think in a long term. I mean, welcome to the accounting hour.
Dr. Business.
We talk about the big shots and big losses in Hollywood.
Let's go over to the Dow Jones.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited to see what.
But fans of Gotham,
I know you're out there. Hopefully,
for the three of you listening, yeah, nothing's happening.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
This deal didn't affect anything.
So this next one, I know you're particularly excited about. Doomsday Clock, ticking closer to the return of the Golden Age and the Justice Society of America.
Yeah, so since the New 52, that whole Justice Society generation has been missing. So like Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, Kent Nelson, like all of these like classic characters
that people have really missed.
Some things have been like slowly creeping back. We got a glimpse of Jay Garrick during the Button crossover in Batman and Flash. We've seen Johnny Thunder, like an old man Johnny Thunder in DC Rebirth, and now a couple of issues into Doomsday Clock, they're doing these things like the original Watchmen did, where there's like articles and things like that. And there's a little hint, like there's one article that talks about Green Flame consuming an all-American like steel mill or something like that. All American Comics, though, is the comic book in which the original Green Lantern Alan Scott debuted, and Green Flame, that's like his characteristic signature, because he's not a Green Lantern like part of the Green Lantern Corps. It's not the green light of will. It's this green flame, this mystic power that comes from the Starheart.
My favorite Care Bear.
Nice. Who's that coming? But I think between those things and like Hawkman, like the Carter Hall Hawkman has been pretty central to DC Metal. I think we're seeing that missing generation is creeping closer and closer to coming back. I don't know what form that will take, but yeah, there's been a little hint in Doomsday Clock, but also across other books and things. So we're getting there. But Doomsday Clock is so good. It's only 2 issues in. I love it.
Well, now like things are actually starting to like you're seeing the crossover rather than all just Watchmen the first.
Yeah.
Issue.
So this second issue, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, but this second issue, a couple of characters from the Watchmen universe cross into the DCU.
Wait, what? What? You mean Watchmen is in the DC? Oh man, I had no idea this was happening. Spoiler alert.
Sorry, guys. But yeah, no, it's great. I'm really excited to see where it's going. There's some really cool moments in this second issue of like characters meeting each other. And yeah, I mean, I love where it's going so far.
I want to know what you guys think about it too, because you guys have been pretty vocal about getting excited for this. Adam specifically, I know that you.
Yeah, we've talked about it online a little bit.
Yeah. Todd, talk to us about your.
If you don't want to like ruin things for other people or spoil things or whatever,
DM us
or like send an email or whatever. I'm happy to like nerd out about things you've discovered in Doomsday Clock. So.
Absolutely. Killing Joke confirmed as an official part of the Rebirth continuity.
Yeah, it's not a total surprise because we knew in which issue is it? Near the end of or partway through Darkseid War, when Batman sits in Metron's chair, the Mobius chair, and he gains access to all of the knowledge ever. The question he asks is, who is the Joker? And he discovers that there are 3 Jokers.
Whoa.
We haven't really fully explored what that means moving forward, but we know what the 3 Jokers are. The one is that sort of modern era Greg Capullo like horror Joker. The one is kind of like the campy 60s jokey Joker. And the one is very clearly trying to look like Brian Boland's Killing Joke Joker.
Mm-hmm.
So we already kind of knew that they were making a specific reference to that one. Plus, the events of the Killing Joke, even though they've never been like 100% canonical, like Barbara Gordon did get crippled. Like that event still happened.
Yes.
So even if the book or the whole circumstances of the book weren't completely canon, like the main points of it were. Like those things did.
Bitch got capped. That's.
I think we've talked about this before. Alan, it's one of the things Alan Moore actually regrets about his own work is how they treated Barbara Gordon in that book.
Yeah.
But he talks about
you finally have this like powerful female character, and then just like cut the knees out from underneath her, like
for no reason.
Yeah.
But he says that when he went to pitch that like Joker would like shoot her and paralyze her, that the editor at the time responded with "cripple the bitch."
Right? Okay. Well, now I feel bad because I was just joking.
You could have been a DC editor in the 80s.
Oh yes. Look at me now.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, Killing Joke is canon.
So what does this mean for the general universe? No changes.
No real changes, because I think the out for them is that there are 3 Jokers. So
yeah.
You mean
comic books, like creating continuity issues?
I mean, even in Killing Joke, they cast doubt on whether or not that Joker origin is real.
Yeah.
Like he says, I'd rather my origin be multiple choice or something like that.
Oh.
But even if you say that the things in Killing Joke actually happened and that's 100% concrete, the origin of the Joker, if there's 3 Jokers, then you still kind of get around that.
That's true. Yeah.
So I actually think this is a relatively easy thing to fold into continuity, given what they've set up so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, time to drool. Mostly gentlemen, but also ladies. New images of Jason Momoa in Aquaman. Oh my god. Here, let me just pick your jaw up from the floor.
Yeah, there's a couple of images.
I've seen 2 so far. The one was like the still of him like looking inside, like maybe it was like a submarine or something, like
kind of looks like a submarine.
Yeah, and like jeans and just like a ripped body.
Well, he's back to the jeans look. Yeah. He's not wearing the armor.
But you also see some images of him also in the armor.
Yep. And I don't know whether or not this is credible, but there are some people that were trying to deconstruct like that jeans submarine image, and they're convinced that it's Black Manta's arm in the far like right of the shot,
just based on the arm.
Yeah, I mean they could be right.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's the internet doing the thing the internet does best, right?
It's arm, and I'm pretty sure it's got like black on there, so it gotta be.
But we know Black Manta's in that movie, so that's not a crazy thing. But yeah, I mean, Jason Momoa just looks so badass. He looks amazing.
Pretty sure it's Iron Man, actually. Pretty sure it's Iron Man.
JLA Avengers. Let's make this happen. Disney, buy Warner Brothers.
Hey, they could do it. Who knows?
Yeah, so it's just a couple of stills so far. But I mean, Aquaman comes out in like 11 months.
Holy shit. Is that really it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we should be getting a trailer in the next 3 months, 4 months, because there's been nothing yet. So,
oh my god, I tell you one thing. After looking at that photo of him, I couldn't have worn those jeans. They'd have been too tight.
Why? I don't get it.
I had an erection.
Oh, okay.
Then it just Even though my very small penis, those jeans look very tight. It just wouldn't have worked. Do you want me to keep going into it?
No, of course not. Absolutely not.
I mean, I know some of our listeners listen to this podcast with their children. I could go into the whole birds and the bees and really just finish this episode with an educational portion.
I feel so bad for anyone like under 20 who listens to this.
Or over. I mean, it's just...
Or I just feel
besides
bad
the
for all of you.
inappropriate, it's also just the terrible content.
Oh, I just feel so bad for every single one of you.
Oh, lordy. WB released his first look at Hawk and Dove from Titans.
Yeah, so we saw
live action.
We had seen previously the first look at Brenton Thwaites as Robin.
Brenton Thwaites does not wear hand-me-downs.
But now we've seen Hawk and Dove. And this one's really cool because I don't think there's ever been a live action Hawk and Dove.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong, people who watched all of Smallville, but I'm pretty...
Also, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, though, that there hasn't been a live action Hawk and Dove. And these costumes look pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's like a staged like promo photo, so of course they look good. I would hope so. But
considering what we've seen from Titans, these are my favorite costumes so far.
Well, yeah, you didn't like the Robin one.
No,
but we discussed that. But yeah, like I said, I've been reading a lot of Hawk and Dove lately, so.
Are you excited for them to be in this?
I always liked those characters, but you know they're one of those ones you don't think about too much. But I'm kind of like in that like mindset right now, just because I got those books and everything. So. Yeah, and then seeing that image, yeah, I'm excited to see how they treat it, because the version of Hawk and Dove they've got is Hank Hall and Don Granger, which is the later incarnation, because originally it's Hank and Don Hall, the two brothers, and then Don dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I'm sure they won't reference Crisis in Titans, but Don, I imagine, will be dead. Like they'll reference that he was Dove, I would think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's a pretty big part of the relationship between Hank and Don Granger, is that
there was somebody else before.
Is that it was his brother, and he kind of sees her as like an imposter initially and things like that. So I think if you wanted to play like the tension between the avatars of War and Peace, you'd keep that element that his brother is dead.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's gonna be do you know when it's supposed to be out? Titans?
I don't actually.
No?
I can't think of it offhand, but it's meant to come out on DC's like streaming service.
Oh, another thing I'm gonna have to pay for.
Well, I know this is the era of like 16 streaming services to watch the shows you like.
Name of our Kelly sex tape streaming service.
Nice.
Right, thank you. Jeff Johns to remain as the DC Films co-head, partnering with new Walter Hamada.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Walter Hamada, but I think the idea is that they're going to have someone in there that knows maybe filmmaking, movies, and then someone that knows comics.
So my issue with this is, does this mean that they feel like they're on the right like path right now and they're just going to continue on, but maybe just small things need to be changed? Because let's put it this way. Wonder Woman was a success. Yes, without a doubt. It feels like it was a separate success from everything else.
But I feel like Aquaman is, the way that's been talked about, is on track to be again like a separate success kind of thing. And I think they recognize that. So I mean, it's too late to do anything about Justice League.
Yes.
Clearly. So I think they know they've got these things in the pipeline, Wonder Woman 2, Aquaman, even Shazam, that they know, I think, will stand on their own.
Yeah.
So instead of completely, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, they can just course correct a little bit, because they know that some of the stuff they've got coming out is going to stand up on its own. So then those times where it will tie together then if they get to a Justice League sequel or whatever.
Well, it's funny because
Flashpoint, I guess, would come before that. But so I think the idea is to just have a better handle on the next time you see a bunch of those characters together on screen, which is likely Flashpoint.
But it's just, I find it interesting because it seems like what they're really good at is these individual stories. And I think like the last really good DC stuff before DCEU was the Batman series, which
that was the only thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean that was
I'm not counting Green Lantern.
Yes, no one does. So I mean that was spectacular, and then suddenly they do one of these group movies wasn't so great. Another group movie wasn't so great. Do an individual movie that was really good. So I'm wondering, like, maybe that's where their footing is right now. They're just better at these sort of individual character stories, and they're trying to be Marvel in the way that they can do these big.
But I mean, I think I like that they're not just scuttling the whole thing and starting over. Because here's a good example: the X-Men franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I know those are team movies.
Yeah.
But if you look at like just the quality of those films, the first X-Men movie is great.
Oh, yeah.
The second one is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The third one sucks.
So bad.
And if that came out now, people would be like, that's the end of the franchise.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? But they didn't. They just went, well, I mean, they kind of did.
They made another one and it was terrible as well.
They made X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is horrible.
Yeah.
But then they made First Class.
Which was great. Then they made the Apocalypse, which was terrible.
Well, but they did First Class and Days of Future Past, which were great.
Yeah.
The Wolverine is pretty good. The one where he's in Japan. Logan is amazing.
So
Apocalypse kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix might be good. Like,
who knows? Yeah.
That series has ups and downs, but they...
More consistently good than
and
that.
And they kind
of
course correct where they see what went wrong the last time, but they don't get rid of it.
No, that's true.
And I think that's worked for the X-Men, and I think it can work for the DCEU too.
Yeah, and I think Jeff Johns is definitely not the issue here.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard to know because I don't fully know what his role is.
I think
like in terms of the actual making of those films, you know what I mean? Like, he's not Kevin Feige. He's not guiding the overarching story or something like that.
No,
so I
don't
really know what he's doing.
I think the issue with this rhymes with Spider.
I don't.
Really? I definitely do.
I think the issue is that they gave Snyder the reins.
Whoa! How did you unlock my puzzle?
I'm a master code breaker. They gave Snyder the reins, and then they chickened out.
Do you think that's what happened?
Yeah.
That his vision would have been a better movie?
Even Batman v Superman, a movie that is objectively a Snyder movie, got theatrically cut. And it hurt the story.
So have you seen the director's cut of that?
Yeah, I have the Ultimate Edition.
And it's of course you do.
But it's way better.
Is it really?
It makes way more sense. I mean, I've said it. My one criticism of that movie is that it's very slowly paced. But it makes sense when you watch the Ultimate Edition. The theatrical cut was like a jumble.
Yeah.
And that happened. And then, like, I know Suicide Squad's a train wreck, but that was another one that was like hacked apart in editing. Justice League was hacked apart in post-production. Yeah. Like, it's all of these
fear-based decisions, you think?
Exactly. It's like the knee-jerk kind of thing. So if having this other co-head and they work together, whatever, helps like stop some of that, then I think it's good.
Well, on the same sort of pathway of talking about Wonder Woman, why not talk about how Patty Jenkins apparently hints at a totally different Wonder Woman too?
Yeah, I mean, very vaguely she hinted at it. Basically, someone asked her about it, and she just... The point she was trying to make is that she's not approaching it like a sequel. Like, we pick up where we left off or something. Yeah. It's just a different story with Wonder Woman.
What I'm hoping for is it's like 20 years, 30 years in the future.
Well, I had heard it's going to be set in the 80s.
So that's you can't do a continuation of a movie that's like 30 years later.
Oh no. But I think she just means just coming at it fresh. Like, what's a Wonder Woman story we could tell without really we don't have to like.
I think
we don't have to talk about Ares. We don't have to talk about
some of my favorite sequels of all time. Like, don't really reference that much of the previous movie, and I think that's the best way to go. If you can tie in things, do that, but don't have that be the thing that
the world has to be consistent, but you don't want to like lock yourself in story wise, right? Where you have to like
this happened, so we need to continue that, and like just put it in decades later. Most of those people are old people anyway, so it doesn't even matter, right? So I like that sort of mindset. And also the wonderful thing about Wonder Woman is that because she ages differently, she can't really continue a lot of those relationships anyway. So I mean, unless people who know that she's like a demigod, but for the most part, you have to just kind of disappear every few years.
Well, that's what I think we talked about that during Dogmas. Where like I was thinking about that when we were watching Justice League. She works at that museum, but like, how long can she work there before people are like, you've looked the same for 20 years?
Yeah. At a certain point, I mean,
time to hit the old dusty trail.
We can't all be Keanu Reeves. I mean, at a certain point, people are going to start questioning things.
I don't want to go like too far off topic, but if you had to cast Keanu Reeves as a DC character to show up in the DCEU, who do you cast Keanu Reeves as?
Okay, well, knee-jerk reaction
John Constantine.
Oh my god, how did you know?
They've never done that.
Knee-jerk reaction, I'm gonna say, is Nightwing.
He's so old.
I know, but the problem is then I go, he's old, so you can't really do that.
I know he looks young, but he doesn't look that young.
No, I know. A part of me loves him as Alfred.
Keanu.
I know. I just think that would be really funny. I still think that he could do Batman.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, John Wick.
I mean, yeah, he's got the martial arts acumen.
But, I mean, I think that, you know what? It's tough because a lot of the characters would have been great had he done it like 30 years ago.
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of the martial arts thing, I think he could play a good Richard Dragon.
Ooh.
Like the current comic version of Richard Dragon. Not the good guy one. The bad guy one that killed the original Richard Dragon and took his name. The Green Arrow nemesis. I think Keanu would be a good Richard Dragon.
I've got it. And I'll do this because, one, because I think it would be good. Two, because of who we're missing right now.
Sure.
Ragman.
Well, you know, he's not here, so he doesn't get cast.
No. I think he would make a good Ragman.
Keanu?
Yeah.
I was in Vietnam. Now I have rags.
Dude.
I know rags.
Ragman.
Perfect. DC execs, hit us up.
You know, we know you're listening. All right, moving on. Arrow can't use Deathstroke anymore because of Joe Manganiello movie.
There was a period there where they weren't allowed to use him.
Yeah.
Because Warner Brothers was like, we got plans for him in the DCEU.
Yeah. And then
they were like, no, we don't.
Nah, it's fine.
And that's why Deathstroke came back in season 5.
Yeah.
And then he's been in season 6. Or what season are they in right now? 6?
I think.
They're in season 6. So he's been in there for a bit, and now Warner Brothers, because Joe Manganiello is like seen at the end of Justice League, is like got a lot of people excited, and they're moving forward with this version of Deathstroke. They've told like the DC TV branch and the CW they can't use Slade Wilson.
I don't know
anymore.
why they care. I mean, they have Flash as its own show. Like,
I honestly I don't get it.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like they're allowed to, DC like famously is known for having both a TV version and a movie version of something,
or just multiple Earths in general.
Yeah.
Right? But the last time this happened, they made DC TV kill off their entire Suicide Squad.
Oh my god, that's right.
Because their Suicide Squad was a little different anyway, but they did have Deadshot, and they had. We saw Captain Boomerang briefly at the end of season 5, but not a ton.
Not really, yeah.
There's a bunch of these characters that like they weren't allowed to. But yeah, they killed Deadshot, like a major character. They killed Amanda Waller.
That's right.
Like she just got straight up shot in the head in one episode. Because DC was like, oh no, we've got plans for the Suicide Squad. So this kind of feels like that, but I don't really know why they do that. I think they think it's going to confuse people, but yeah, like you said, I mean, they've got the Flash in both. They've got a Superman on TV and they got a Superman in movies. So
like I don't see why. What
they got a young tween Bruce Wayne on TV and an old grizzled Bruce Wayne in the movies. I don't know why they think people will get confused, but that's happening.
Weird.
Yeah.
Who cares? I mean, it's just comic books.
But I mean, really, like it shouldn't matter. But
no, seriously.
I don't know if maybe there's some sort of like rights issue, but that doesn't even make sense to me. So,
no.
I don't know what it is.
You guys know, let us know.
Yeah, if any of you are like insiders.
Oh my god. Why haven't you said something before?
Yeah.
If you're a new listener, sorry to hear that you're becoming a listener of this podcast, but talk to us. We'll use you before you walk away in disappointment.
Happy 2018.
All right, moving on. Diane confronts her brother in Wonder Woman number 36.
Diane. Yeah. So
sorry, it's the leftover nog.
there was a reveal at the end of Darkseid War, I think, or at the end of. Yeah, it was the end of Darkseid War, I think. That on the day that Diana was born, she had a twin brother.
Yes,
Jason.
Yeah, we talked about it in a previous episode.
And so in the most recent arc of Wonder Woman, we've seen her interact with Jason and get to know him a little bit. There have been some back and forth.
They've been like turning him into a bad guy.
Well, yeah, he's been kind of manipulated.
Yeah.
I think he's good at heart.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a cool arc. I mean, it's done now. Zeus showed up. Zeus is a character.
Serious.
Zeus is a character you rarely see.
Yeah.
He's often presumed dead, but Zeus showed up because the sort of premise was that Grail, who is Darkseid's daughter, through complicated story things, had sort of like killed and rebirthed Darkseid as a baby, and basically she was killing the sons and daughters of Zeus to harness their power to artificially age Darkseid. It's how Diana finds Jason. She tries to warn him about it, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then Zeus shows up because of the goings on. It's been a pretty cool arc. I don't know what the future holds for that character, though, for Jason. Yeah. It's a cool story. Like, he fits nicely into it. I don't know where he goes from here. I hope it's somewhere interesting. I hope he's not just forgotten about.
Or like a martyr so that they have somebody to kill.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know where he goes from here.
Because had this been a movie or a TV show, that's what would have happened.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, because I feel like the next arc of Wonder Woman isn't necessarily Jason focused, so I don't know if he'll just become a supporting character, or if he'll strike on his own, get his own code name, or
do you think they're going to turn him into a full like bad guy?
No, definitively no.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll see if they prove you wrong.
Well, the arc's done, so
they won't prove you wrong. Someone quick, make your own comic book series. Prove him wrong.
No.
All right. King Arthur fights to take back Atlantis in Aquaman number 31.
Yeah, confusingly worded, but yes. For the last little bit, like Arthur has been deposed as king of Atlantis, been presumed dead, and he's been kind of Batmaning himself in the lower trides of Atlantis. People are like, the citizens there are talking about like the Aquaman.
Oh,
he's known as Aquaman on the surface, but Atlanteans don't know him that way. They know him as Arthur. He's King Arthur.
Oh,
so the Aquaman.
It's wearing a cowl, so people don't know it's him.
No, he's just growing his beard out and his hair. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, sure.
But basically, he's kind of taken a page out of Batman's book. He's been very theatrical. He's sort of playing the.
Is that specifically from Batman? That's
he says that he's like taking a page out of Batman's book.
Oh, that's cool.
But basically, we've finally gotten to the point now where he's ready to lead this massive rebellion against the guy that usurped him, Coram Wrath, who sort of unleashed all these dark magics to keep himself in power. So, yeah, we're coming to the end of this underworld arc in Aquaman, and it's been really good.
Yeah, you've been enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been awesome. They reintroduced the character of Dolphin in this arc. We've seen characters like King Shark in there. Volko is back. Mira's had a great like sub plot in there. It's it's been some really like cool stuff. But the key thing here is that Arthur doesn't want the throne back. He's not trying to overthrow Coram Wrath so he can take back the throne. He just doesn't want a despot ruling Atlantis. And then he wants to leave.
Seems like he never really wants to be king anyways.
He doesn't. And most Atlanteans don't want him either.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really kind of fraught relationship.
Well, this is like bastard child, right?
But he
of
is
Atlantis,
the rightful heir.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that's not actively trying to declare war on the surface or things like that. So
that's true.
It's he's always caught between a rock and a hard place. It's sort of his duty to basically keep Atlantis from like self-harm effectively. But he doesn't want it. So I don't know where this ends. I have a suspicion of my own that Mira becomes the monarch of Atlantis. And then Aquaman is like her consort. I feel like it goes that way.
Would you like to see any of the stuff from this series, this current run, like in the movies?
It's maybe a little too dense to see in the movies. I think the movies will probably draw on like Throne of Atlantis, like a previous arc. But that arc also deals with whether or not Arthur wants the throne versus
I feel like
does he have to take it. I mean,
always the story.
That's another arc that is sort of central to that idea. So you'll see similar ideas, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. Ooh, so final piece of news. DC and Warner Bros. Currently have plans to bring The Question into the DCEU.
Yeah,
or DCAU.
is it DCEU or just TV or something?
It says
But
DCEU or DCAU, which I don't know what. I've never heard AU before.
the animated universe. Question has been in there. Question had a huge
I have
arc.
heard about. I keep like all the different articles kind of point towards the live action version. So
Yeah, the Question had a big arc in the animated Justice League cartoon, and he was pretty central.
So he was there. So
but
if they're talking about him, it makes it feel like it's going to be a
gotta
live action.
Yeah.
So what makes the Question so like cool?
Well, we've talked a little bit about the Question before. He's the character that Rorschach is based on.
Yes. No face.
Yeah, he's a detective in his alter ego as Vic Sage. He's a news anchor.
Okay.
And then as the Question, he's a brutal detective vigilante. He's sort of a proponent of like objectivist philosophy, so he believes that things are the way they are. So he has no moral qualms about killing. He doesn't even really think about it.
Oh wow!
Like Green Arrow will kill people and then deal with it. You know, Batman won't kill people. Question, it's not a thing for him. But he's a terrific detective. But yeah, brutal. Like that side of Rorschach comes straight from the old like Charlton comics and stuff like that. I mean, obviously comics in those days couldn't be like
as brutal as
super dark or anything, but like it's in there. I have a bunch of like, and Denny O'Neil's run on the Question once DC Comics bought Charlton Comics. Denny O'Neil's run on the Question is pretty iconic, and that really goes to that dark place. So it would be great. You were always talking about seeing something more noirish or really like hard boiled or something like that. Yes. The Question is the perfect sort of vessel for something like that. So if he ever got his own thing, I would, like Black Lightning or whatever, then I'd hope it would go that way. I don't know if that's the plan or if the plan is to like fold him into Arrow or I
hope not, because I also like, why are they making such a big deal about it if he's just going to end up on Arrow? But what I would love to see is one like that hard-boiled noir, but not as stylized as something like Frank Miller's stuff. Like, right. I'd love to see something that's a little bit more a little more realistic and grounded. I feel like a place they could do that is in some sort of like streaming service, some sort of web series.
Well, and if they need more content than just Titans and Young Justice season 3 for their own streaming service, then maybe
that would be the thing, right? I feel like that's a great opportunity, especially to go as dark as they want to, because they don't have as many restrictions as cable TV does, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I think that would be cool. I mean,
the Question fights crime in a city called Hub City, which is based on the real life city of East St. Louis.
Wow, that's a very specific city.
Well, but it's specific because of how
the crime
ridden and desperate it is. I think in the comics they talk about Hub City and they say it makes Gotham look like Metropolis.
Oh, that's right. It's
Gotham's Gotham.
Yeah,
basically.
It's Gotham and who that was forgotten.
Yeah, Hub City is a pretty rough place.
Is it ridden of like actual villains or just like
not full of super villains, just full of crime, organized crime and street thugs? And
I would love to see that. I mean, that's the one thing that kind of like I miss from like Batman's origin was there was more like kind of thuggy kind of stuff.
Well, it was the thing that I liked about the first season of Gotham.
Yeah, exactly.
All the mob stuff.
Yeah, when they made it about mob stuff instead of superheroes, because that was the premise of the show. Whatever, it's fine.
We're over it.
Yeah, clearly.
So well adjusted.
Oh, Lordy. So this week's theme, second chances.
Well, I was thinking
the thing Gotham doesn't get.
We get it. I was thinking it's the new year. People are making resolutions and that. I thought this was an appropriate theme. We could talk about villains who have tried to turn over a new leaf or have reformed or things like that. There are a few examples of it. And
you tend to be an offensive host of a podcast. You could try to be a good guy. Whatever. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Let's hope it works.
Too late.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Let's go to Twitter.
Let's do it.
Talking Superman says, how about the reverse? Are there any superheroes or any heroes you can imagine turning bad for a while?
Right. So the first question that we've got is...
not that question.
I don't like the question. I don't like the theme you proposed. What's the opposite? Yeah, heroes going bad for a while. I mean, we've talked about instances of heroes going bad a lot.
Yeah.
The one that comes up the most, we talk about Hal Jordan when he succumms to fear and becomes possessed by Parallax. That's a really iconic one. We've talked. Well, actually, we haven't talked about it, but since I'm in a huge Hawk and Dove phase, Hank Hall at one point becomes the villain Extant, and he and Parallax are the main villains of 0 Hour.
Extant, terrible name.
Is he Extant or yeah? He's Extant. I think Captain Atom becomes Monarch, and that's a villain version of him.
No one ever suspects the butterfly.
Yeah, precisely. I think there's lots of versions of that, of heroes going bad.
Yeah, fuck you talking Superman.
Well, no, but the question is maybe what's another one that like hasn't been done that
we haven't talked about
that we think would be interesting or
something
like that. I think it would be interesting to see maybe a character like Metamorpho, who he gets his powers magically, but he also struggles with. He's kind of like the Thing in Marvel. He kind of struggles with the fact that he's become a monster, and he's a hero, but he's sort of begrudgingly because he always wants to change himself back. Like he would give it up right away if he could. I think that's only a hair's breadth away from like a villain origin story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Metamorpho has a pretty strong moral compass, and that's what kind of helps get him through. But there has to be a reasonable story way where that's eroded. Maybe something. I almost proposed a women in refrigerators scenario. I'm not going to do that. Nothing is going to happen to Sapphire Stag. But maybe something happens like personally to Metamorpho that kind of breaks that whatever's left of that optimism in him. Mm-hmm. Or his desperation gets to a point that the only way to change himself back is to really kind of forsake those things.
Yeah.
I don't know that would like take long term, because I would think that the resolution of that is that he would realize that like in trying to make himself human again, he's lost his humanity, and then that's the, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
But that might be an interesting short story, or like an arc or a mini series or something like that.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Who would I think? What about Mr. Terrific?
Mr. Terrific,
has he ever gone bad?
He hasn't gone straight up bad, but he's one of the antagonists in Future's End.
Oh, okay.
And I say antagonist because in the sort of possible future that story is set in, he and Batman have built Brother Eye, which ends up being the main villain of the piece.
Yeah.
But he's so like self-assured in his genius and things like that he doesn't see the danger. Mm-hmm. He's not a villain there, but it's possible that there's things in there that could go.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I could see Mr. Terrific. That would be an interesting one.
He'd be Mr. Not Nice Guy. Mr. Not So Terrific.
Mr. Not So Great.
Yeah. Mr. Just Talk to Me Tomorrow.
Am I making this up, or was there not a character called like Mr. Horrific or something like that?
I like that idea.
If there's not, there should be. Yeah, I mean there are lots of heroes that have had a bad turn. And
there was a Mr. Horrific.
I knew it.
Crisis on Two Earths, Crime Syndicate Earth.
Yes, I knew it.
Yes. Right. Oh, so good. That's why you're the doc. Mr. Horrific is the evil counterpart to Mr. Terrific.
Yes.
There you go. Mr. Horrific was not named in the movie, but Jerome Moore identified him as such on his DeviantArt page.
Oh, okay.
Next to all the photos of sexy, like fairies and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, DeviantArt.
I was like, what are all those things that are inappropriate on DeviantArt?
There are heroes who have like pasts as I don't want to say villains, but like crooks. Like Plastic Man used to be like a small time thief, like a crook, before he got powers and became like a good guy. And every once in a while, like he's got like the impulse to pick a pocket or something like that, but he doesn't because either someone's watching or he feels bad or something like that. But I think there's. So who have we said? Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific. I don't. I'm going to say one that I think would be interesting, but I honestly don't see how it would happen. I don't think it works. But Hawkman. I don't think it works. I don't think you can make Hawkman outright
unless
evil.
you do like some sort of like mind control kind of thing, and that doesn't really that doesn't count.
I mean, I guess you could say that's what happened to Hal Jordan, right? But
yeah,
I think it would be interesting because Hawkman, to me, I mean, he's obviously underused, but he's like, his main power that people don't really talk about is he's like a master of like aerial combat.
It's true.
Like,
that makes sense.
Superman can fly, but Hawkman like is flight.
Yes.
Like he's a warrior, and he's tough, and he's like uncompromising, and he like leans super far right. Like, I could see a totalitarian Hawkman.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of like the Flashpoint Hawkman, I'm pretty sure, that you get.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you saw him in Convergence, but I don't know that like a straight up evil one works. But it would be interesting, I think, because I think he's more dangerous than people give him credit for. So I'd be into that.
What about Matter Lad being back?
Matter Eater Lad?
Yeah, Matter Eater Lad. It's just he starts eating people. Like
I mean, that would be like a particularly grim Legion superhero story. I mean, you could do it. That would be super messed up, though.
I think. Could you imagine just doing like a side like cannibalistic story?
Oh, that feels like it would fit in like Marvel's Ultimate Universe, where they just like gratuitous violence for violence's sake.
I'm okay with that.
It's like, there must be a parallel Earth in DC that's just the gratuitous violence Earth.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen S says, speaking of villains reformed, Piper. Before the New 52, Piper was handcuffed to the Trickster, and ended up being outed and going to the side of the Angels. I wish that was continued.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is a character called the Pied Piper. His real name is Hartley Rathaway. He's a Flash villain originally. He's a member of the Rogues with Captain Cold and Heatwave and all of them. But at a certain point, Pied Piper tries to turn over a new leaf. He tries to do good. And the Rogues don't like that, obviously. They feel like that's a bit of a betrayal. He kind of goes back and forth a little bit. He tries to play both sides. Mm-hmm. There's an instance where he's trying to prove himself to the Rogues, so he basically, like, Pied Piper's power is that he plays this flute and can mind control people.
Yes.
And he makes this guy like transfer money to Mirror Master, jump off a cliff or whatever. But he's like set it up in a way where the guy he's stealing from is actually the bad guy. So he justifies it to himself, and he tries to like wire the money away from Mirror Master after. Like he's trying to play both sides for a little bit. But ultimately he actually does become a good guy. And actually it did get continued. I mean, the New 52 shook a lot of things up, but when you see Hartley Rathaway again in what is that issue? It's early. It's in like the single digits of the New 52 Flash series, like issue 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
When you see him, he is a reformed rogue. He's a hero, or he's trying to be a hero, and they reference his past as a villain. So technically, that story did continue. They didn't actually throw that out with the New 52. Pied Piper is still like an attempted good guy, basically.
Yeah, I guess that works. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so if you haven't been reading the New 52 because you thought that they just threw that out, I would definitely look it up. He hasn't shown up a ton. Like, there's not like a whole host of Pied Piper stories, but he is in there. He's a character that shows up, and he is, quote unquote, on the side of the Angels.
And worst case scenario, you just watch Silicon Valley, and then you get your Pied Piper take.
Nice.
That's what I'm here for.
Hartley Rathaway, that character, has shown up on The Flash.
Oh yeah,
he was the one that had like the crazy tinnitus and like the like Soundwave gloves.
Oh, it sounds like Vibe, doesn't it?
Well, no, it's because it's in like the first seasons before Cisco had powers or things like that. But Hartley, shows up. You only saw him a little bit. I thought he was going to become like a more major.
Yeah,
character.
I hardly knew him
because when they did,
don't you fucking walk past that.
I know. When they did Flashpoint, one of the things they changed is that he wasn't a villain. He like helped them out on a case or whatever. Yeah. But then you never saw him again. He's in like one episode. Yeah.
Awesome. So Michael O'Brien says, Gotta talk Max Lord. Basically 2 heel turns, just one much bigger than the other.
Yeah, Maxwell Lord, we've also talked about before. He was like the administrator.
I also like the use of saying heel turns as if this was wrestling.
Yeah.
Very happy with that.
He was like the administrator of the Justice League, like a civilian. But the big one is that in Countdown to Infinite Crisis, you learn that his whole plan while running the Justice League was basically to make them ineffectual, to make the public lose trust in them. That's like the story reason for why there's a whole era of the Justice League that's very silly.
Yeah.
It's called like the Bwaha Justice League. That's Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and Martian Manhunter and all of them. Those are where you get stories about Martian Manhunter's like Oreo addiction and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing.
They're called Chacos in
oh my god,
DC, but he's got like a severe Choco addiction.
That's amazing.
But at any rate,
unlike Speedy.
Yeah, no, he's on the straight up H. So yeah, it's revealed in Countdown to Infinite Crisis that Maxwell Lord this has been deliberate, and that he's in charge of Brother Eye now, and that he runs Checkmate, and that he's basically going to try and wipe out metahumans. And he uses his mind control power to do that. He's the one that shoots Blue Beetle in the head and kills him. So that's like the big like turn. Maxwell Lord was never a good guy. He was always a little like shady, but that was his straight up like villain turn. But in the comics, like earlier, he had been like corrupted by the Kilgore virus, which was like a sentient computer virus that infected him, and that would controlled him for a little bit, and then so he's gone like kind of back and forth. But ultimately, what you learn is that the good was not the default setting. The retcon of that story is that Maxwell Lord was always kind of leaning evil, and then finally kind of embraced it.
Is it just me, or does Maxwell Lord sound like an emo band from the early 2000s?
Oh yeah, I like that.
I was totally a Maxwell Lord.
Maxwell Lord would also
or Screamo band.
Maxwell Lord would also just be like a decent porn name.
My name's Maxwell Lord.
That's a pretty good like male porn star name.
They call me that because they always yell God when I'm having sex.
Wow. How deep will my like well of pity for our listeners extend this year?
Speaking of how deep in Maxwell,
no. Damn it! Why?
You walked into that one.
I did.
That's what she said. Warlock Thanos podcast says, not really a question. Well, then why did you ask? But I hope
Easy Colin.
Someone's got to do it. But I hope you discuss the Injustice League and their turn as Justice League Antarctica, as well as Major Disasters membership in the JLA.
Sure. So, the Injustice League is the name of several teams of villains that have teamed up.
Yeah.
It's not just one lineup, but this one that he's talking about is a very particular lineup of like the worst, like really like C D-list villains. This version of the Injustice League included like the Clue Master, Big Sur, who we talked about on our trading cards issue.
Yeah.
And Major Disaster, among others. Even Gnort and I'm jumping ahead. But that version of the Injustice League, they're very ineffectual or whatever, but at one point they try to turn over a new leaf, try to do some good. And Maxwell Lord makes them the Justice League Antarctica. And they set up a base in like fucking nowhere for them, just basically to get them out of the way. And Gnort and the Scarlet Skier join the team. But then their base is destroyed because who is it? Is it it might be Major Disaster. Tries to fight off a bunch of penguins. And it destroys their base. Yeah, I mean, basically the point of that. I mean, again, that's in the silly era of Justice League comics, which were a ton of fun to read. But the point of that team was that these were characters who were already basically a joke. They were like, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for this lineup. And
we Gnort, really?
but the tragic part about it is that Major Disaster himself is a pretty decent like character, and he has gone hero villain a few times, and that was one of his attempts to reform. He's tried, but his powers are that he can cause natural disasters. So even when he's gone hero, he tends to do more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'm not gonna remember what he was fighting, but he like leveled Times Square or something like that. Like he like because his power is not exactly like targeted, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't just like just only earthquake there. He just does it. So I think he's a little bit of like a menace no matter where his heart is. But he has tried on multiple occasions to reform, but it never really takes.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it really didn't take is because then they reboot continuities and things like that. But he has gone like villain, hero. Sometimes it's a matter of circumstance, and sometimes it's, like if he's, like I talked about what you want out of a metamorpho villain story. Sometimes it's out of desperation or whatever, but he's kind of done that a few times. But when he goes villain, he goes like villain. He's like trying to kill heroes or like take out a dam or like, like stuff like that. It's not like Catwoman. Like what the worst Catwoman does is like steal a diamond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's wrong, and sometimes
she's not trying to kill people though.
Well, or she is, but they're also bad guys. Like she's killing mobsters or things like that. Like Catwoman doesn't go like, I'm gonna nuke New York. Or like,
she's not trying to like rule the world.
Exactly. Major Disaster, when he goes villain.
Yeah.
And then tries to reform. So it's kind of sad because that's multiple attempts. It's almost the story of like recidivism. It's like he always like slides back into this like old habit, and it's kind of sad actually.
Can't kick that villainy,
or he's just not given the help he needs.
We're not having this conversation.
Are you against prison reform?
I haven't made up my mind yet.
I am learning things about you.
Oh, but Doc, what's that? Do you hear that sound?
Oh god.
Oh god. What's happening?
Oh god.
Oh my god. I'll try to fix it.
Oh, it's happening.
Oh no. Is this thing on? Oh, yes. There it goes. Yes, I told you fools I would be back. Villainy takes a little bit of work and sometimes a little bit of money. So, you are to listen up, shut up, and prepare for the next couple seconds of this ad. That's right. Beard oil, beard balm, pine tar soap. These are just some of the products that Great Lakes Grooming they provide. Now, they are also sponsoring this podcast, but they're also paying me. So that means you're going to listen and you're going to use their products. That's right. For you lucky listeners, you also get 10% off of Great Lakes Grooming regular price products. Yes, that means by going to GreatLakesGrooming.com. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you need a www at the beginning of that? That's right. This is 1995 and you're a fool, aren't you? Oh, those beard oils. Now, I don't specifically have a beard because I like more of that sort of gingery look with the freckles on it, similar to some of my favorite characters. You might remember them from Archie comics, that's right. But if you are going to need some of that beard oil or beard balm like the idiot fools who run this podcast, then you might want to go to Great Lakes Grooming. Yes, that's right. Great Lakes Grooming is meant to have easy and ready to use rain or shine. I didn't make a mistake there. That was just me making sure you were listening to this ad. All their products are purposefully designed and environmentally responsible. Handmade in Canada. Canada. Yes, that's right. The upstairs neighbor to a jerk. Ready for adventure whenever you may find themselves. Or if you're on maybe a trip to kill some people or take over the world, well, don't, because I'm already there and already doing it. Yes. That's right, listeners. If you use the promo code DRDC Podcast on the Great Lakes Grooming website, that's promo code DRDC Podcast, you will get 10% off. Now do it now. Back to your stupid show.
Very serious.
think we might be back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't know what the hell that was.
I didn't like it.
No, I didn't like it at all. I don't know who that was. I could barely hear it, but it didn't sound like.
I should clarify. Like, I liked the content. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. It sounds like a great product, regardless. I have a beard, so I would definitely use a product like that.
Yeah, I just blacked out and I got a promo code.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's working wonderful.
I hope all the listeners blacked out with us got that promo code.
That's right. All right, let's move on to Facebook.
Let's do it.
Oh, Josh Gilly, old Gil.
Gil.
Oh, Gil. He says that the current run of Justice League of America is showcasing two villains turned heroes, Killer Frost and Lobo. And Lex Luthor recently went through a hero phase himself. It seems to be a pattern of villain turning hero and reverting back. Outside of major disaster, pre-Flashpoint, has any villain ever turned hero and not gone back to being a villain?
That's a good question.
That is a long question, but a very good one.
Well, let's talk about some of the components of it. So yeah, the current run of Justice League of America, Batman is basically, he's got Lobo on his team, and he has a reformed Killer Frost. Now the thing with Killer Frost, this version of her is that unlike what they do on the show, it's not a split personality thing, but what it is that she has, her power is kind of based in like entropy. Like she generates cold and ice and things like that, but she has to consume energy to do it, which makes her an interesting like villain for a character like Firestorm, because that's traditionally where those characters sit. But she basically consumes people's life force, and then it turns into this cold power for her.
Whoa.
So part of the struggle for her in reforming is finding a way to keep a cap on that hunger, basically. In a way, she's kind of like a vampire.
Ooh,
like there's that
vampire.
It's probably the easiest way to think about it. She's like a heat vampire,
or like a wraith of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, she's really trying to be a hero, like genuinely.
Yeah.
Lobo is a little bit doing it because Batman like has something on him, and Lobo has his own sort of code of honor, and he's like giving Batman his word, so he's doing it. But I also don't know that I consider Lobo like a full-on villain. I mean, he's a mean guy. He's a bounty hunter. He's brutal and violent, but only when you hire him.
Yeah, I mean that's
like you hire him to do so. But he's also got a heart. He loves dolphins.
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
He loves dolphins. Space dolphins or otherwise. So like he's got a soft spot for things. And Lobo, I think, given the right circumstances, can maybe be counted on to do the right thing. Maybe, as long as he's not getting paid too much. So it's interesting to have those two characters on a team that also has characters like Vixen, Black Canary, the Atom, the Ray, characters who are pretty morally upright.
Yeah.
And then you have like a reformed villain who's trying her best, and you have someone who's just kind of there doing good deeds, but is maybe not good themselves. So that's kind of interesting. The Lex Luthor thing, when the New 52 Superman died, Lex took let's back up a little bit. Forever Evil happened, and the crime syndicate from Earth 3 invaded Prime Earth and basically incapacitated the Justice League. And then it was up to Lex Luthor and a group of villains to form an Injustice League and defeat them. He saves the world, basically. Him, Black Manta, Black Adam, Captain Cold, Bizarro, they all team up and save the day. And then after that, Lex Luthor he joins the Justice League.
Weird.
Well, they don't really want him on it, but he kind of coerces them, and Batman says it's better to have him close where we can watch him.
It's true.
So Lex Luthor joins the Justice League, and they go through some things together. And then when the New 52 Superman dies, Lex upgrades his armor and puts like the S shield on it and wears Superman's like actual cape.
Whoa.
And becomes Metropolis's Superman until the pre-Flashpoint Superman sort of comes back into play.
Yeah.
But he's still a Superman. And he hasn't reverted back yet. Now,
really?
Doomsday Clock takes place about a year into the future of the DCU. and something is up with Luthor. He seems like he's up to something. I mean, of course he's up to something. He's Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor up to something.
But so I don't know if this is the year that we see the hero facade crack.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty solid and genuine. Like
For how long?
Wonder Woman's used the lasso on him to see like what he's hiding, and he hasn't been hiding anything, or he's found a way to beat the lasso.
Yes.
But,
how long has this been?
It's been a while. Forever Evil was 2013.
Wow.
Is when it started. Luthor has been
He's not
currently in the Justice League anymore, but he's still like a hero. He's just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But it's been some time. I mean, you could make the argument that he's a hero because he wants the praise and stuff like that, and you're probably
Booster
right.
Gold-y kind of.
But he's still doing it.
Yeah.
But this might be the year that we see that turn. So the actual question beyond those things is,
yes.
Has there ever been a villain who's turned hero and it actually stuck? The best example I can think of is Ambush Bug.
Oh,
Ambush Bug.
that goes back to our first episode.
Second,
sorry.
Yeah, way back. Ambush Bug, in his first couple of appearances, was like a villain.
Mm-hmm.
It's this guy, Erwin Schwab, who puts on this irradiated alien suit, and he gets teleportation powers and, some of the usual like host of things like agility and strength and stuff like that. But as he's like kind of being a crook and like a villain, he sees Superman saving people, and he's so inspired by Superman that he decides he wants to be a hero, and he kind of like harasses Superman because he wants to be like him. And that stuck. Ambush Bug never went back to villainy after that. He has an arch nemesis, an evil Argyle sock that's sentient and wears a Doctor Doom mask.
Seriously?
Named Argyle.
Oh my god, that's right.
Ambush Bug is a hero now, and that's never changed. Now, I don't know if you count, but I mentioned Plastic Man before he had powers was a crook.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe not villain, quote unquote, but he was a crook. He got powers, and he kind of learned the value of them and became a good guy. And that's basically stuck. I'd say Catwoman.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Catwoman in the early days of comics, like thieving and things like that, but that was like villainy in the 40s.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, yeah.
You don't like poison a reservoir in the
yeah.
It's like, although the Joker might have done that, but yeah, Catwoman.
She's not a villain, but do you think
she'll,
she's a hero?
Right now,
I guess,
but also in that sort of Robin Hood way. Like maybe it's not the way Batman deems just, but when Catwoman steals something, she's generally not stealing from people who need it. She looks out for her neighborhood in Gotham and things like that. Like it's maybe not his version of justice, but I think she's pretty definitively heroic at this point.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's true. I never thought about it like that.
And she was a member of the Justice League of America in the New 52, which was the Justice League that Amanda Waller recruited. So she was on that team with Martian Manhunter and Green Arrow and Hawkman and things like that. She and Batman are getting married.
Yes.
That's happening. So I would expect to see her even more like in the fold. On Earth 2, that Earth's, not New 52, Earth 2. Pre-Flashpoint on Earth 2, that Earth's Batman and Catwoman. It is the New 52 one too. That they get together, they get married, and they have a daughter named Helena Wayne, and she eventually becomes the Huntress.
Oh, really?
And sorry, that is also in the New 52.
Wow.
There you see that Earth's Batman and Catwoman in an arc of Batman Superman where the two worlds kind of meet. So I'd say Catwoman's probably a good example of that too.
That's a great
again, like maybe the definition of villainy is stretching.
Yeah.
Like maybe she was never
a villain. Well, I don't know. Like some of the initial stuff that you saw of her.
I mean, her very first appearance. I mean, it's a terrible issue of comics. It's not good even for the 40s. But like her first appearance, she's just stealing to steal.
Yes.
She's not doing it nobly or anything like that. But I think generally for the last 15, 20 even years, Catwoman is pretty definitively heroic in her own kind of way.
Yeah. I like that.
So yeah, I think Ambush Bug
Ambush
for
Bug
sure.
is more typical, but
Catwoman. I mean, those are maybe the two kind of big ones. The thing is, when you reform a villain, the temptation as a writer is always to say but
yeah,
let's go
deep
back.
down. Yeah,
Like right now, Clayface is on the sort of team that Batman has assembled in Detective Comics, and he's been trying to get his powers under control. He kind of has not the split personality, but like the thing they play in The Flash with Killer Frost, where if he uses his powers too much, then the monster comes out.
Yeah.
And right now that's going poorly, but he's been like a valuable member of Batman's team. But now Batman is facing public backlash because there's definitive like proof and pictures that he's recruited like a known murderer to help him.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? Like I kind of hope that Clayface actually stays good, because he's been very interesting to read.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the temptation is always going to be to go back to that thing. Right?
You have that darkness, you want to play off of it, right?
There are characters that maybe haven't fully transitioned to hero, though, that I think are they have transitioned to protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy. There's a couple characters like that I wouldn't go so far as to say they're heroes now. But I think they've found their compassion.
Yeah.
I think there are circumstances in which they'll act heroically, and generally I think they have some sort of good intention.
Well, I think
they they lose their way or things like that, but I think generally those characters have evolved from just villain to something more complicated. They have a more complex relationship with good and bad.
I think Harley Quinn specifically has such like origins like deep rooted in like goodness that like it's easy to understand how she could become good, because I mean it was all through like mental illness that she was pulled like out of that. But like I mean she started as a doctor, like a mental in mental hospitals, like, right, like
she's a psychiatrist or a
psychologist. So I mean like you can see how like it's easy to pull her into the good side, because like they think that humanity is in there. She doesn't have this sort of like unlike the Joker, who's we're not really sure where he came from, it's easier to say that he's just evil from
I think it's during the No Man's Land arc that Poison Ivy basically like rescues a bunch of like orphaned or like displaced children and basically takes care of them in this park in Gotham that she sort of makes her own domain. I'm pretty sure that's part of that arc. I mean, she does have things she cares about and will like fight for in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's characters like that too. We maybe haven't seen them go full hero yet. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that they might be in the process of getting there.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. Tyler Van Nosdal? I'm not sure. Correct us.
I don't know.
I Nosdal.
That sounds right.
Tyler Van something. In the past, Batman and the Flash have probably had the most villain-turned-hero stories, with characters like Pied Piper and the currently, as you just mentioned, Clayface.
Oh, yeah.
I know in the past Riddler was, but are there any other Batman or Flash villains who have actually who've been actual good guys for an extended period of time? Which ones would you say have been your favorite versions of these?
So we talked about Catwoman already. And mentioned the Clayface thing and Pied Piper. We've talked about those.
Look at that. Boom.
Boom, 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 boom. I mean, the Flash, his relationship with the Rogues is interesting, like that group of villains.
Yes.
Because they...
Especially like Captain Cold.
Well, yeah, Captain Cold is typically the leader of the Rogues. Yeah. But basically, like, that is a group who, like what we were just saying about Catwoman, like, they're not out to rule the world. Like, they're not trying to... You know,
apparently not everybody wants to rule the world.
I blacked out. What happened? They're just kind of out to. They want like the score. They want to like rob a bank, and or like
they're just in it for gain.
When they say they want control of Central City, it doesn't mean they want to like totalitarian rule Central City. They just want to be like the mob bosses. Like they want the easy life, when they want that sort of like criminal respect and things like that. So because of that, and because the rogues have their own sort of like code of conduct and code of honor, where they like don't kill like women and children, and they don't, kill cops unless they have to, like they kind of, they're, villains with a code. They're crooks with a code. And so because of that, the Flash has on occasion teamed up with them. He's found common ground with them, or common enemies. They've teamed up when Gorilla Grodd invades. They've teamed up to take down other speedsters or things like that.
Because the Flash is not generally going after like common crooks. So for him, it's more, his thing is just like, just don't kill anybody and like, we're cool.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I mean, like he's also a CSI. He like works in the justice.
But that's
system.
his other life, right?
He's still going to send them to prison.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like I think he doesn't object to working with them because he knows that they generally
aren't trying to hurt people.
They're not trying to hurt people. Sometimes people get hurt, and then that will sour that relationship. But yeah, they're not out to do that. And I think that's key. I mean, the rogues in general, I think, are like that. So I would say that many of the Flash's villains actually fall into that category. Weirdly, like in a way that other characters don't have. But like there's probably like 6 to 8 main villains of the Flashes that fall into that category. On the Batman side, again, this isn't a character that's gone like full good or anything, but I think he's got an interesting relationship with Killer Croc. Killer Croc is a character who has been depicted at times as just the monster, but also at times as someone who is he's outcast from society. He just wants to be left alone, or he's like taking care of like kids in the sewers, or like this kind of weird underground sort of thing. Killer Croc's also not the smartest though, so he can be duped into being someone's thug. When Catwoman briefly controlled the criminal underworld, Killer Croc was was part of her muscle, basically.
God, I hate the Killer Croc and Suicide Squad.
BET.
Oh God, sorry, it really bothered me.
I wish they gave him more.
I'm glad they didn't. I feel like that character was on the cusp of racism.
But what I mean is not more of that. I just mean more.
Oh, well, yeah.
Instead of like only giving him that.
I could say that about every character in that freaking movie. But
well, fair enough. I live underground. Y'all are just tourists.
Oh my God. You know that movie way too much.
I've seen it so many times. Killer Croc, I think, is maybe an interesting one. Yeah,
who's your favorite?
Like sort of villain turned good or ambiguously good. I like the idea of like playing with the Riddler that way. I think in the case that
the one thing Gotham got right in the beginning.
Well, yeah, and I think in the case that's mentioned here, there was something to do with like amnesia and things too.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't fully himself, but he did go good for a bit. And there's something interesting about a Riddler that's kind of playing both sides. Like maybe he's not just like out to be like the best criminal. He just likes being
he just likes to fuck with people.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I like that.
It's a different way to go about it, right? Like
yeah.
He's just like, there's this thing I want to do and the way I want to go about it, and this is the way that I can do it.
But if you have to like make broad generalizations, I'd say Flash's villains are typically like they're bad guys with good hearts.
Yes.
I mean, there's exceptions like Grodd, Thawne.
Yes.
Like some of them are not good, but others are. Even Godspeed, like one of the most recent ones, I think there's something good still in him in there. And then Batman's, I think, are typically like they're pushed to villainy. Mm-hmm. Someone like Mr. Freeze or Killer Croc or Man-Bat, or like they're kind of tragically villainous.
Man-Bat, especially, yeah. Actually, yeah, all of those, yeah.
Clayface,
yeah.
Like I think a lot of them.
That's interesting.
Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy,
It's really interesting that like Flash has this thing and like Batman has this different thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there are
but also like
general patterns.
But also like that's kind of Batman, and Batman's tragically a superhero.
Well, yeah, well, I think Batman's is all about it's being pushed into it. Like you're almost there, not of your own free will.
Yeah,
including him. You're right.
Yeah.
And then with the Flashes, it's more about like self-determination. Like we're crooks, but we don't have to be that kind of crook. Or like, I got these powers, I'm going to be the Flash. There's something. They kind of occupy different spaces, but I think it affects like their rogues galleries in very kind of like pattern ways.
Exactly. Nice. That's cool. Let's go to our last question.
All right.
Another one from Josh Gill. Son of a bitch.
We allow 2 per episode.
You know what? He does enough work on this podcast. He's an
does,
unofficial member of this podcast.
He does more work on this podcast than I do.
He does almost more work on this podcast than I do. So he says another one. ... What minor villain do you think would be the most interesting to see reform into a hero?
This is a tough question.
I love this question
because minor villain, there's hundreds of them. We talk a lot about like the main sort of rogues galleries, like Superman villains, Batman villains, Flash villains, things like that. Since he said minor villain, I want to try and dive somewhere else, dig a little deeper. I think it would be interesting to take a character like Shadow Thief.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Hawkman fans will be offended that I'm considering Shadow Thief a minor villain, because Shadow Thief is like one of the arch enemies of Hawkman. But if we take a character like Shadow Thief, and that idea that like he's almost kind of addicted to / trapped in the shadow realm, like he can't live without it. He kind of talks to himself, and he's sort of like mentally unstable. If there was some sort of story device where Hawkman or someone like that kind of frees him mentally, and then he just has this ability and he's not consumed or addicted or corrupted by it, then what does he do? I like the idea of like taking a villain and removing like their reason to exist and then seeing where they go from there. Like that's what I like about that period where Bruce had died, like Batman and Joker had died, quote unquote, but Bruce came back, but he didn't remember anything. He was just Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And then he sits down with the Joker and they have like a sane conversation because the Joker can't be the Joker without a Batman. I love that idea of like just like taking away like their reason or the motivation for villainy. There's one where during Forever Evil, Black Manta thinks that Aquaman is dead, and he like literally does not know what to do with himself because his only reason for existing was to kill Aquaman. And Aquaman has used that against him. He's like, Black Manta has had him beaten, and Aquaman's just been like, kill me. And he's like, what are you going to do next? Yeah. And then Black Manta's like, oh shit, I don't know. And he like won't kill Aquaman because he realizes
got away.
It. So I think there's maybe something interesting in like, you take a character like Shadow Thief, who's sort of like, he's tormented by the shadow realm. And it really like breaks his mind. If you could free him from that and give him an opportunity to like, now what do you do? Like, do you team up with Nightshade and you're both like shadow warriors, or do you continue being a villain? I'd maybe be interested in that. Do you have like a minor villain?
So I've been thinking of a minor villain, but like at the same time, he's a major villain in some ways, but a minor in I think like
so kind of like Shadow Thief. I'm so sorry, Hawkman fans.
I know.
Let's be honest.
Well, mostly this one occurs to me because I think the idea of this one happening, like I think it just is really funny.
Okay.
Starro.
Starro the Conqueror.
I just love the idea of Starro the Conqueror, like being like, I can like enslave all these galaxies, but like I really want to help the common man.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could make a very interesting story that way, where maybe Starro thinks that he's going heroic.
Yeah.
By controlling people and like forcing peace upon them.
Yeah.
You know, like there's that kind of
like from like Rick and Morty with Unity. I like that idea.
Starro just showed up again in DC Metal.
Yes.
So it's a weird character, but he's in there.
He's invading like a portion of the cosmos right now, isn't he?
And he's teamed up with who's he teamed up with? Is it Mongol?
Mm-hmm.
But he's in there, yeah.
Or another one that occurs to me is Toyman.
Toyman.
Shot.
Yeah, Winslow Shot, the Toyman. That's the original Toyman. That the new well, here's something interesting. The new Toyman, or the more recent one, what's his name? Hiro Akamura, is, I don't want to say full hero, but he's almost like he's like a tech guy that sometimes helps Superman.
Yeah.
He's not like a bad guy. Those are two different characters, but they share like a mantle. So like he actually like turned the idea of Toyman around. I don't know if that counts, but you know what I mean? Like there's an element of that. There's a character that I wanted to talk about before that I didn't, and maybe we can like end on this one. I think it's the third tattooed man. His name is Mark Richards. Mm-hmm. He's a villain who can make his tattoos come to life and control them. Sort of like mystically based. He was a villain, like objectively, like a bad guy and a hitman and things like that. And then during Final Crisis, when Darkseid released the anti-life equation and was like taking over the world and plunging the cosmos into darkness, the tattooed man was given a chance to be a hero by Black Lightning, who sacrificed himself to save tattooed man and other people. And he does. He ends up fighting alongside the Justice League. They give him honorary Justice League membership, and he does actually turn himself around. And then almost just by circumstance ends up falling into villainy again. It's another one of those kind of sad things, like Major Disaster a little bit. But the Tattooed Man is a character that I find interesting, and I'd love to see. And frankly, he's a minor villain. Mm-hmm. That's one. It would have been nice to see that continue. It'd be nice to see him in modern comics on the reformed hero path, I think, as opposed to what actually happened, which he fell in with Deathstroke. He was kind of instrumental in the death of the second Atom, Ryan Choi. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be more interesting to see the hero Tattooed Man. So maybe that counts minor character.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, if you would like to send us a question, you can go to all our different formats of social media, such as Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast,
or on Twitter,
at Dr. DC.
Don't forget Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
or on our email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
And also, you can go to our website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
And you'll find great blogs and some more detail into some of the subjects that the doctor has talked about, maybe on this episode or definitely in prior ones. So if you want some more detail, he's writing to his heart's content. So there's lots of content on there, as well as previous episodes, and you guys can go on there and take a listen.
And a selection of show notes from the wonderful Josh Gill as
That's right. We've been definitely appreciating that. He's done some really hard work, especially over Docmus. Mm-hmm. Much more work than we definitely did putting that thing together. So we definitely appreciate it. If you want to also show your appreciation outside of creating show notes and sending us things, which we definitely appreciate, you can go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and what Colin does, and we'll make sure that he reads that if he ever comes back.
From wherever he is.
Yeah. Or you know what? I mean, you could just like say some stuff in Colin's voice, and I can try to do an impression. I
don't think it's Speed Force again. I don't think he's in the Speed
Force. No, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Zeta beam to Ran.
I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys think. Let us know where you think Colin might be.
Remember, if you know where he is, #Colin is here. And if you don't know where he is, #Colin is there. But be sure not to specify. Just put the hashtag.
No. Tell us where you think Colin is. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's we're all done then.
All right. Zataran.
Adios.
Superman, Aquaman, all the superheroes.